This is a Headgum podcast.
I get a lot of pushback on that from people that don't want to think that Ducky is gay. And, look, people can think anything that they want. But for me, it was just always clear because that's the relationship that we had.
Yes.
He was like as in love as you can be with somebody that you can't have that thing with,
It's a very safe
It was like
love.
our love was, it felt very romantic.
Yeah.
Where he would write me letters and, like the most we and his name was Matt and Molly. So every time I would go away on location, he would send me M&Ms.
Oh.
M&Ms.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this
He
love.
taught me how to drive. I crashed his moped. I'm
A sign of true friendship.
Car.
A sign of true friendship, crashing someone's car and remaining friends. Hi, Liz Feldman.
Hi, Jessi Klein.
How are you? I haven't seen you
I know.
in a few days.
You haven't seen me in a few days. I'm going to adjust my little...
Adjust your headphones.
Yeah, I'm adjusting my headphones. I have a small head, and sometimes when I put on headphones other people have worn, it's a reminder from the universe
that you have a slightly small head.
that I am a petite sized lady.
But yeah, I mean, your head is proportionate to your body.
Isn't that kind?
And I don't mean to objectify you out of the gate, but
Objectify away,
your head
baby.
is proportional to your body.
Thank you. That's honestly the nicest thing someone said to me in a long time.
Wow. Wait, okay. So you were going to catch me up on
My 30th high school reunion.
the high school reunion where, for
it
whoever
happened.
was following along, Liz was receiving
dear.
I'm going to call it a Lifetime Achievement Award prize. A prize from your own high school at your 30th reunion.
Yes, it was called the Distinguished Alumni Award. And just to answer your question from that previous pod, it was a plaque.
It was a plaque.
It was a plaque.
With like a brass.
Like a plaque with like a brass thing.
that.
And it was,
I like that.
with the black writing
That
on
feels
the-
classy.
Yeah, it was classy. It was
Nice.
classy. And the whole thing was such a trip. And, being back.
Yeah, walk me in.
Okay, so it took place at my high school.
At your high school.
And it
In
was
Brooklyn, New York.
Yes, and let me set the scene for you.
Waiting with bated breath.
She's a rainy day.
She's rating.
So hardly, and like one of those rainy days in New York where you do not see it coming, and all of a sudden you're not at all prepared.
A deluge.
Happens, and I have, of course, because I'm so nervous about this whole experience,
Of course.
had painstakingly straightened my hair.
Yep. Flat iron was packed.
The flat iron was packed. The suit was
Pressed.
the pressed and everything.
Starched.
And of course, then I have to make a very large walk from the car to the school.
Why?
Because I had to.
What's this walk?
I know. I'm just saying I had to walk.
She's winning an award. She should be giving door to door.
They didn't roll out the ceilinged carpet.
Okay.
So of course, as soon as by the time I make it into, I'm just all. It's a rom-com.
We're frazzed.
Yeah, we're frazzed.
We frazzed out.
And I've got Carol Kane's hair from Princess Bride,
I was going to say I do feel like one of Carol Kane's signatures is a frazzled hair.
Is a frazzled hair.
An intentional frazzle.
You knew exactly what I was
That's
talking
my
about.
last album, Intentional Frazzle. Go on.
By the way, I loved every track.
Oh, yeah.
And so anyway, I'm already feeling like a little bit like a wet mouse.
Okay.
But I walk in there and it's just such sense memory, everywhere
Yeah.
you look, this is where I ran to when I lost the Burns speaking contest.
I'm sorry, the what?
There's it's like an old private school and they have something called the Burns speaking contest.
Public
where you
school
have
girl
to make
here.
public speech was a very important thing in my school.
Okay.
Which is was something I was fairly adept at. And
It's happening now.
Isn't it?
It's happening right now.
I don't want to get too in the weeds on this story.
No. We got to keep going.
But I'll just say I gave a speech my sophomore year about homophobia in our high school.
Thank you for your service.
And I lost to a guy who made a speech about chess. Now that man is a friend and I love him very much.
Okay.
But
you're like, his name was Bobby Fischer. That's very of the time.
Yes, very of the time. So, all these memories flooding back.
Is there a smell? A musty
oh my God,
high school
immediately
smell?
a musty high school smell.
They
and
all
it was
have a
so
smell.
specific.
Yeah.
And, this school's from 1863. So she's an old smell.
She's an old smell.
She's an old smell. And then, I go into pee in one of the bathrooms and I'm like, oh my God, this is the bathroom I hid in when this girl came after me because I slightly beat her friend up.
This sentence is taking me on an emotional roller coaster. We're in ups, we're in downs.
Come with me on this ride.
This started with you as the victim. And already you are now what we call in New York City law enforcement, the perp.
Yeah, full perp.
You're the perp.
I had a very cute boyfriend in high school. And
curveball there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I know. I'm going to keep you guessing.
Yeah.
And there was this girl that would incessantly flirt with him. And it really bothered me. I've always been a bit of a jealous type.
Hands off, honey.
Yeah, hey, honey.
Hey, honey.
And so literally,
the boy is mine.
The boy is mine.
Said Brandy.
I quote, one day we're in the basement of our high school, outside the locker rooms, and she's flirting with him. And I say, hey, sort of playfully, stop flirting with my boyfriend. And she goes,
okay.
I'm not going to flirt with him. I'm going to fuck him.
Liz!
Says. I swear to
Liz!
Gord. So next thing I knew, I had pushed her against the hallway, the wall.
What is happening right now?
And I think I might have punched her in the stomach.
Liz, I have known you for so many years, and this is literally the dish.
I'm not proud of it.
Buried the lead. What version of Grease are we in?
Yeah, we're in the Bay Ridge 1993 version.
Crying real tears. Okay.
And I can't say her name, but it's a funny name, but I won't say it just to protect her innocence, even though she wasn't innocent.
Apparently not.
She was fighting with her words first.
Let's be honest. Prepared me. I literally am weeping. This is
100% true.
Okay.
And so what I didn't realize is that her best friend was a bit of a drug dealer.
Go on.
Literally came after me. Oh. And I used to hang out in the theater hallway, and I was a known theater hallway hanger-outer.
Okay.
And so this girl came for me in the theater hallway. My best friend Dan put his arm around me to kind of protect me.
Got to protect that small head.
She either intimated, thank you. She either intimated that she had a knife or she literally had a knife. I don't totally remember, but I just knew that I was scared physically for my life. And so I hid squatting upon a toilet seat in one of the bathrooms.
Legs up.
Legs up.
Legs up.
Barely a breath coming out of this chest.
I cannot. I'm sorry.
So many memories flooding back. And so just to take you on this journey with me.
Okay.
It was so sweet. I did get the award. My friend Kate gave the nicest speech about me, and it was such a out of body experience.
Of course.
I had to give a speech in return, which I was very nervous to give.
Sure.
And it was such a wonderful
time for revenge against that guy who talked about chess. Look who won.
By the way, he was there. He was there.
Chess guy was there.
Yeah, he was there.
God, it's all hands on deck.
I know, and that's why it was so sweet. There were really a lot of people there, and they were so kind to me, and I felt so loved, and such a healing experience from how I had really felt in high school.
It's the opposite of high school.
And then we're all kind of hanging out, and we're walking down the hallway, and we're going to go into this little room where they're selling merch for the school, and I'm like, oh, I'm not buying
reunion merch.
Reunion merch.
Everybody wants a piece of reunion merch.
And I walk up, and I see sort of out of the corner of my eye, there's this guy kind of coolly leaning against the door, and I didn't recognize him, and then he just goes, hey. And I look at him, and it took me a second, but I realized that this was the guy that I had sort of lost my virginity to.
Wait, it took you a second. So I'm going to assume the sex was great.
The truth is, I'm
going to assume
no. I don't know if it was even
Liz.
the deed because
Well, that's a common problem.
is it? I didn't know that.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, was he your first and your last?
No.
Okay.
But certainly like a first. And I don't say the first because again, it's murky.
Well, yeah, there's the like, you think it's going to be a lot. And then
I
sometimes
didn't know that this was going to be the
it's like,
moment.
are you in yet?
This was the guy. So I'm looking at him now, and it's like I truly almost couldn't make it out. And then it like all sort of, he's like a 52-year-old gray-haired guy now. Like
I like that you build that up to sound so depressing.
So sorry.
Well, can I just say what is staying with me out of all of these details
Yes,
the
thank
most?
you.
How impressed I am that somebody wanted to have sex with you in high school. Because that was not true for this nerd.
Wow.
But I'm not surprised because you are a beautiful woman with a proportionate head.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to
and
feel
a great personality.
about your takeaway.
Now, should we segue?
Yes, we should, because this was what I was thinking during my 30th. Why hasn't there been a movie
Go on.
in a John Hughes style?
A John Hughes style movie.
Made about somebody or some group of friends going to their 30th or 40th high school reunion, walking back into those hallways, remembering who they were, thinking about who they are now, unpacking all of it.
52-year-old gray-haired man whose dearest girlfriend doesn't remember his face. Yeah, I love this movie. Yes, there should be this movie.
There should be this movie. And
who could be the star of it, do we think?
Today's friend is an actress, writer, and translator who became a beloved icon to a generation with her starring roles in films like 16 Candles,
Incredible.
The Breakfast Club,
Iconic.
and Pretty in Pink.
Favorite.
She has written numerous essays for The New Yorker,
So
published 2 books, When It Happens to You and Getting the Pretty Back.
Amazing.
And has also translated books, impressive, from French to English.
Can't speak either.
She starred as Mary Andrews on the hit CW show Riverdale, played Sherry Dahmer in Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story.
Terrifying.
And most recently, she played Joanne Carson on FX's Feud, Capote versus the Swan.
So good.
So good. Molly Ringwald,
You're here to make friends. Hi, Molly. Oh my God.
Oh my God, it's
You're
happening.
Here.
I can't believe this is happening.
I'm so happy to be here. And that was so hard to listen to your intro and not just like want to jump in with my own thoughts.
Please jump away.
Jump away.
I'm still in shock that the chess won over the homophobia.
Thank you so much.
No.
That really means a lot. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I was gay when I gave that speech.
Really?
I swear.
Seems like that could have been a big hit.
Well, not in my high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and there were no people who were out in my high school. And so I wasn't even aware. I just knew that I was like, this is fucked up. Like,
Did doing the speech give you kind of like maybe an inkling? Like, were you sort of really connecting with the speech and kind of thinking, wow, this is really,
I'd like
hitting
to
the
say,
spot?
I'd like to say yes. But the truth is, I didn't know I was talking about myself. I didn't really know at all.
That's
and
amazing.
I just knew that in terms of social justice, I recognized it as like a real problem that people didn't feel like they could be out in our high school because statistically, obviously, many of those people probably were gay, including the gal on the stage giving the speech.
The gal on the stage giving the speech.
But yeah.
Is it possible you were distracted because of all of the people around the room who wanted to beat the shit out of you in revenge? That story, I mean, there's so many things to unpack here.
Thank you so much.
But I would not have pegged Liz Feldman for the person who's saying, hey, stay away from my boyfriend.
From my man.
From my man.
I know.
It's like a real,
Yeah.
because I do believe just a few weeks ago you said the words to me, I don't love confrontation.
I don't, but we all contain multitudes, you know?
You all contain.
Yeah.
Molly,
Wait, let me ask you this.
Oh my God, yes.
Was that woman there?
Great question.
No, and really good question because I left out a key detail. So this was a reunion for people who had graduated on the 0s and the 5s. The guy who I was just talking about, who I had my, dalliance with, the guy who I was talking to, it was not his reunion. He graduated.
What? What was he doing there? That's like so Matthew McConaughey and Dazed and Confused.
But apparently less attractive. Did you ever have a stay away from my man moment in high school or during your schooling?
I never did. No, but I never dated anybody that went to my high school.
Okay. Smart.
I mean, I dated people in the imaginary high schools that I acted in.
Yes. There we go.
There she is.
But yeah, no, I never dated anyone because once I was in high school, I was kind of like already definitely in this other life that I was infinitely more interested in.
Yes.
So yeah, there was nobody there that was even remotely interesting to me. Who was male? There were not a lot of lookers at the old Lycée Français.
Oh man.
Okay, so Molly, first of all, before we even get any further, we want to thank you for being here because it really is a dream.
Truly.
Oh, thank you for asking.
Of course.
We're not going to do the whole thing where we like tell you how influential you were in our lives and
we're not.
How
not us.
How large you loomed, in our preteen and teenage years, and how much we wish we were friends with you when we were kids. We're not going to do that.
It's not happening.
Okay. All right. But you can, but no, you don't have to.
We just, we don't want to give you all the stuff that you probably get all the time. But everything I just said is extremely true.
Everything is extremely true, and we have felt those things. Liz and I were talking about how, again, you are not just dream guest, but truly dream friend.
Truly.
And it feels, in a world where we made this podcast as a long con to make new friends and just have people on that we want to be friends with.
I love that.
We talked about the fact that it feels a little like we have manifested you slightly insofar as both Liz and I have kind of run into you in the last year.
Yes.
Liz at a party and you and I on an airplane. Now, if I can just tell this story because I am coming back last year from this like amazing retreat that I had gone on to Ireland. I'd never been before. I had this amazing, beautiful spiritual week and was like, very bummed to be coming home. And I was like, oh, I've peaked. Like that's the highlight of my year was Ireland and all this, like going and meeting all these people. So I'm just like getting on this plane. I'm like on the second leg coming back from New York. And I'm just sort of like, back to life. Get on the plane. And then I'm like, oh my God, Molly Ringwald is on the plane. Molly Ringwald's on the plane. I see she's sitting 2 seats next to me. Oh my God, it's Molly Ringwald. And then I'm like, be cool, be cool, be cool. Be cool, be cool. I sit down. I'm watching people walk on the plane. And I kind of feel like I'm seeing other people be cool, trying to be cool. And then I'm like, okay, well, one last great thing has happened to me, which is I'm on the plane with Molly Ringwald. Then I guess we take off and there's a moment happens or maybe it's like right as I have to go to the bathroom. I pee very quickly into a flight and I'm walking by you and you go, excuse me, are you Jessi Klein? At which point I'm like, oh, I think the plane must have crashed. Maybe I was asleep during takeoff because now I'm dead and in heaven. Because Molly has just asked are you Jessi Klein? And I truly was so freaked out because I could not understand how this was happening. And then very sweetly, it turned out we have a friend in common. And I think you said that your child is a fan of Big Mouth. And that was the connection. But anyway, and then we had a really lovely chat. But it was truly the most surreal thing that had happened in quite some time.
That's amazing. I mean, it's amazing because from my point of view, I clocked you, had no idea that you had clocked me.
I mean,
and I was like, how do I say hi? Because we were working on this project, and there was literally a character that we have been writing for you.
Are you a dead person? Are we dead now?
We just had the nicest chat. And
I think we just like made each other's day, which is really nice.
I mean,
right?
I can say that my day was made.
My day's made by hearing that whenever this was a year ago, your days were made. This is incredible.
It was a pretty lovely day. And especially, I do feel like when you get on a plane, your expectations of how good things can be is pretty low.
Pretty low.
Low. But yeah, that was amazing. And then Liz, you had your Molly encounter.
Yes, and I spoke about it. I spoke about it on this podcast, so I won't go into much detail. But it was my friend Silver's birthday, and you walked in, and in that moment, I realized, especially doing this podcast, like you are kind of like a white whale in terms of someone I would want to be friends with. And
white whale.
A white whale is good, right?
Yes, good.
Anytime you're compared to a whale.
No, the sveltest whale.
Just to be clear, not physically.
Not a physical whale, a metaphorical whale.
Not
But do
at
you
all
have
physically.
those people? I mean, is there?
Yeah.
Can you remember like the last time that you met someone where you were like, "Be cool, be cool, be cool"? I mean, it must.
Jessi Klein. I
set
was
her up
really
for that.
excited to meet you.
Oh my God.
The person that I actually came to the party where I met you, Liz.
Yeah. Yes.
Rufus Wainwright.
Yes.
He is somebody that I kind of friend stalked for years. And
I get it.
like literally for years. And we had a lot of mutual friends and they weren't like hooking me up. And so finally I was like, I just have to take matters into my own hands. And I happened to be driving down Venice or something, and he was walking with some people, and I literally just went, pulled to the side of the road.
Unbelievable.
Undid the window and said, "Hey, Rufus." And yeah, that's how we became friends.
No way.
So
I
you
was like,
went for
this
it. I
has to
love
happen.
that.
I totally went for it because I was like really determined. It had been a few years, and I was such a big fan of his, and still am such a big fan
I'm
of his.
obsessed with him. He's my
Yeah,
favorite.
and then we ended up becoming friends.
How long ago was that, before the party?
That was like 2 hours before. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Do you like that? Like Liz and I are both so fragile right now. We're like, Molly, it doesn't make any sense, but okay, sure.
No, it was like a few years ago. It was
okay, gotcha.
It was like I would say about 4 years ago.
I omitted that it was Rufus Wainwright who came in with you because because
you're a coward.
I am a coward. No,
You're a straight up coward.
No, because I didn't. My sort of my emotional meter was piqued by seeing you. Is the truth, and I didn't feel that it was an important
the
detail.
emotionometer.
You didn't have anything left in the tank. is
Well,
what you're saying.
For Rufus.
I think also because I knew that Silver was friends with him.
That's
so,
right.
You were ready. You were ready.
I was more emotionally prepared for him to
emotionally
walk in the
prepared.
door. Was not emotionally prepared for you.
So obviously, we have so many questions for you.
Yes.
And it feels like the first thing to start with is just in terms of your body of work and all of the iconic movies that you've been in. We were also just listening to other interviews that you've done recently, like with Monica Lewinsky on her amazing podcast,
which was great.
Which
by
was
the way.
so
Such
great.
a great interview.
Do you have any understanding now, or did you even have any understanding then in the moment as you were making those John Hughes movies, of what sort of made you such an affecting presence as an actor at that time? Like how you had the very specific and unique impact that you had on screen with people?
I did not have any idea really at the time. Because I think you're not really thinking about that at the time.
Yes.
I was just really psyched to be working with John and working on these scripts that I thought were really, funny that I connected with. I didn't even know that they were going to connect really with anyone else. I mean, 16 Candles wasn't really much of a hit when it came out.
Right.
And then
that seems insane.
Breakfast Club was a bona fide hit when it came out. And then Pretty in Pink, which I thought, that's definitely going to bomb because this other movie did well. And then, and then that was like the biggest hit of them all, which is funny because in retrospect, I always just think about Breakfast Club as being like the one.
The one.
But yeah, at the time, I just really, I didn't really think about it. And then if I think about it later, I think it's just because I was so relatable and I didn't really look like what a movie star is supposed to look like.
Right.
I mean, I was, sort of freckly and I didn't have these extraordinary, beautiful eyes or like amazing hair or, really any of
Disagree.
that.
But go on. We know what you're saying. We understand the point you're making. Yeah,
I felt like I was relatable. I think that people were able to see me. They were able to see themselves in my
Definitely.
roles.
Yeah.
And so, and not just people that look like me, as I've found out now years later, that there were a lot of people, people that were different ethnicities, people of color, who didn't see themselves in those movies because there were no Black people in John Hughes movies. So they put themselves in me, the redhead.
Like, we'll take a redhead.
We'll take a redhead.
Redhead is as much representation as we could get at the moment. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I didn't make this up. It was actually something that I listened to from a really wonderful writer named Tressie McMillan Cotton.
Oh, yes.
She writes for the New York Times.
Yes.
She's a professor. She's super smart. And she had this whole bit about how she thinks that Molly Ringwald could walk into a lot of predominantly Black neighborhoods and be by myself and be completely safe because so many Black women put themselves into, my character. I would never, ever presume to say anything like this, but she says it much more eloquently than I just did. But it really kind of blew my mind because I have often wondered why so many people of color don't get mad at those movies. Because they don't see themselves in them as they should.
Yeah.
But they saw themselves.
But they did, yeah. We were just sort of like archetypes and all these other people folded themselves into our characters.
That is such a fascinating take on that entire oeuvre of movies. I'm blown away by this. I'm going to have to read this article.
Yeah, that's so. So, question, going back a little bit to the idea that you walked into a party, right, with these people, including me, who
and
were
Rufus
sitting there,
Wainwright.
and Rufus Wainwright, who I love that, like, you sort of
the man you picked up off the street,
socially
that
threw
I
yourself
fangirled.
out.
You fangirled.
Yes, but like, when you go to a party like that, I was so aware. Or at least like I felt a sensitivity towards you where I was like, I'm not going to go and like chat her up right now. She's here with her friend. She wants to have a good time. I don't know. I felt sort of like I wanted to keep a respectful distance, respecting boundaries and whatnot. And it had me sort of thinking like what mental process do you have to go through being yourself to let your sort of defenses down to connect with new people?
It's something that it's always been a little bit difficult for me just because I am naturally an introverted person. And even to this day, I think, I'm an introvert who has had to force myself to be an extrovert just to, survive in this business, or just in life, And I had already gone to a party with Rufus earlier that night, and I used up all of my, when you're an introvert.
Parties in one night.
It was a lot for an introvert.
A lot for an introvert.
That's nothing because extroverts get energy from other people, and introverts, I love people, but then I always have to have a moment where I kind of like, and then I have to like sort of refill the tank before I can actually. So when I got to that party, I just kind of stuck at the end of the table and I was not really that social just because I didn't have anything left in the tank.
Totally get it.
Tank was on E. Tank was on E.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think I try to be mindful of the fact that, a lot of people have preconceived notions about me or you know, they have some connection to me that I don't necessarily have to them.
Right.
At least not yet, because I didn't sort of grow up watching them on screen, or I didn't have like my first slumber party, you know, watching one of the movies, or you know, so I'm always kind of aware of that. On the other hand, it's not anything that you can like think about all the time, or else, you know, I think you just can't function or go anywhere.
Makes
so
sense.
like half the time it just kind of doesn't really even occur to me.
Yeah.
I was just like walking into this party thinking like, oh my God, I just have to like refill the tank. I have to just sit here for a minute, drink a couple glasses of wine, and wow, this house is amazing. And, you know, like this is such a beautiful, it's a really beautiful house.
It was beautiful. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I will say as a perimenopausal woman myself, I will also add like, so impressed by 2 parties in one night.
Seriously.
I mean, like at this point, forget my social energy gas tank. I am just generally, I would say the bedtime right now is hovering around
9:30 for you? 9 for you.
Well, I want to be home by 9 so I could hit that 9:30 bedtime.
Oh yeah, you left my birthday.
I did leave your birthday.
You were the first to leave. Let's be honest.
Can I just say, in fairness,
Yeah.
I was also the first there.
Yeah, you're always the first there.
I look 20 minutes early.
I like being the first at parties. I like it. I like being either the first or the last. You know, I just like being there when it's not too crowded.
Yes. It wasn't that I left early because I was...
No. You stayed for the whole dinner.
I stayed for the entire
You just didn't go to the
dinner.
second location with
I
us.
did not. Well, you know, they say never go to the second location. And that's from The Gift of Fear. Here's a question we ask people a lot on this podcast. Who, do you have a best friend? And who's your best friend?
It's hard to actually choose best friend because I feel like I have a few best friends, but the person I guess I'm going to choose would be Matt Freeman, who is my best gay.
Sure.
And
Such an important
he's the
figure.
character that Ducky was based on.
We were going to ask about him.
Yeah.
We were going to ask if you were still friends with the person Ducky's based on.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are. And, you know, he didn't come out until he was 27, I think. He came out really on the late side, even though I think we all sort of knew, but he was not, you know, ready to face that.
Maybe if he had heard Liz Feldman's speech.
You know what I'm saying?
In high school.
Exactly.
He would have felt more comfortable.
Yes, it was really not okay to be no one was out in, you know, North Hollywood High at that time, and it was, you know, right in the middle of the AIDS crisis, and it was like, it was not only not okay, it was really, really scary.
Yeah.
So that was something that he was just, and he also really, really wanted to have a family and never thought that would be possible to do as a gay man.
Yeah.
So now he is the godfather to my 21-year-old Matilda, and I'm the godmother to his daughter, Mazzy, and we are still very much in each other's lives. So I would say he's my best friend, in that he's like really my oldest friend who I've just been consistently friends since, you know, 10 years old.
I was going to say, how
grades
old
ahead.
were you?
Yeah, 10.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And the story goes that John Hughes saw you guys sort of like dancing together, and that's where he came up with the inspiration for Ducky. It really based on Matt. And that I heard you say sort of more recently that obviously Ducky was gay because he's based on Matt. And something like clicked in my brain, you know, in this weird Rashomon kind of way, where I was like, oh my God, Ducky's gay. Of course he's gay. Of course.
Yeah, of course. I get a lot of pushback on that from people that don't want to think that Ducky is gay. And, you know, look, people can think anything that they want. But for me, it was just always clear because that's the relationship that we had.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
He was like as in love as you can be with somebody that you can't have that thing with, you know?
It's a very safe
it was like
love.
our love was, you know, it felt very romantic.
Yeah.
You know, where he would write me letters and, you know, like the most we and you know, his name was Matt and Molly. So every time I would go away on location, he would send me M&Ms.
Oh
you
my
know,
God, M&Ms.
Oh my God, I love this this. I love this
He
love.
taught me how to drive. I crashed his moped. I'm
sign
sure I
of true
crashed his
friendship.
car.
A sign of
Yes.
true friendship, crashing someone's car
Yes.
and remaining friends.
I mean, he's really my ride or die. And I think, but I do have a lot of friends. And I think my friendships is one of the qualities of my life, my accomplishments, I would say, that I'm the most proud of.
Yeah.
I feel like I have really great friends, and I think I am a really good friend.
I mean,
to people.
I don't doubt it.
I don't doubt it.
Just hearing you on Monica's podcast, and the way you both had shown up for each other over these years, like, it was so beautiful and so interesting and nuanced how you had your point of connection with each other. And I don't know, just hearing you talk, and she said this herself, like, you have a real wisdom about you. And that is something that I certainly look for in a friend, and something that I sort of pride myself that I think I can give.
You are very wise.
And it's such a gift to be able to sort of like share that wisdom with someone.
Yeah. And to be able to just show up
Yes.
for someone, to be able to, I was listening to one of your episodes that you did with Vanessa.
Yes.
Speaking
of people who related to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
Vanessa
Yes.
Yeah.
is very much into Molly Ringwald.
Oeuvre.
And by the way, I also rode on a plane with her, and I didn't say anything to her,
Oh my
and I
God.
always regretted it.
Oh my God, we will tell her immediately.
We are going to book tickets for all of us on a plane with
my
Vanessa
God.
so we
Yes.
can reenact
Yes.
and get this done.
Molly,
Yes.
this is going to blow her mind, and we are definitely going to text her immediately after
We are
this is
texting
over.
her immediately. We're gonna get on a thread. But you were saying.
I was saying that I was listening to her talk about, the book that she wrote about,
Yes.
when you have somebody who is sick.
How do
and
you care for a very sick
How do you
parent?
care for a very sick bear?
how do you show up for them? And I have somebody right now in my life who is going through something, and it's one of those questions that I ask. I want to be that friend who shows up, but I don't want to kind of be too much, in the way, and I don't want to, So I don't know. I was really happy to listen to her take on that.
Yeah.
And I want to get her book, even though it's, written for children. Like, I want to read that book.
Hey, Molly,
because,
we're gonna. I think it's taken care of.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think we got you. We got you.
You're going to get that book.
Yeah,
kid.
you're gonna be getting that book. No, it is. I think, like, especially like at the age that we are now, and having friends you've known for a really long time, it does sort of, I don't know, is this going to sound corny? It does sort of feel like an honor
Absolutely.
to feel like you could be that person for someone, and have it really be super meaningful to do that.
Yeah.
And that you have something to provide your friend with, that, especially if it's someone you've known for so long, that only you can give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking
That
of,
was a pretty good answer
That
to
was
do you
a-
have a best friend?
Yeah, it
and we
really
got,
was.
and we got to Ducky. And I just want to say one last thing about
what's-
Ducky
what's
being
that?
gay.
What's that?
Well, I'm having feelings about it only
Yeah, you
because
are.
in another episode that we just did where we talked to Jillian Bell, who just made a movie about high school.
A great one.
I mean,
Summer of 69.
Summer of 69, so great. We kind of, not knowing that we were had you coming on
Yeah.
soon, we really were talking about high school and spent so much time talking about it just naturally in terms of Breakfast Club.
Yes, like who we
Who
were.
we were on
Yeah.
in that movie. And I will say, I think I did say that I considered myself 80% Ducky.
Yeah, you were 80% Ducky.
I was
and
80% Ducky, just
I
as
was,
someone who was
yeah.
always unrequited.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to. Yeah. I mean, I would have given
With a
you
little,
Claire.
I mean, I wish.
Didn't we all?
I wish. I was really, again, you are able to have this conversation as someone who we now know lost her virginity in high school.
How dare you? How
I'm
dare you?
very cool
It's honestly still big question mark there. But I just so you know, I was Judd Nelson.
That's That's right.
Yeah, clearly. You were Judd Nelson.
A fighter. Pulling girls, pushing girls around.
Listen, don't judge a book. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
And you recently celebrated the 40th anniversary of the Breakfast Club with the whole
That's
cast,
right.
and you all got together for the first time in 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, how was that is too general of a question, but like, what?
But also, how was it?
How was it? What was that like to be with all of them again after all this time?
Was there the high school smell?
Yes.
It was a lot of feelings. It was, I was also there. I mean, we were in Chicago where we filmed the movie, and I haven't spent a lot of time in Chicago outside of, doing those movies with John. And then I was also there with my family. So my two 15-year-olds and my 21-year-old.
Oh my God.
And I, and my 15-year-olds are the same age that I was, when I started working with John. So, it was just like everywhere I turned, my mind was just like a little bit more blown.
Yeah.
And I think it was just ultimately really nice. The nicest part was just going out for dinner afterwards and just being all together.
Yeah.
I think that was the best part. And also Anthony Michael Hall is there with his like toddler. He has a toddler now. He's an older dad. And I think Emilio already had a kid when we were making the Breakfast Club. So we've all kind of like done it sort of in different order. Judd does not have a kid. I think he's the only one who's not a parent. But yeah, it was really amazing. And it's the closest that I think I will ever get to a high school reunion because I didn't have that connection to my high school years just because I was gone so much, doing movies and sort of living another life. I didn't really have a life like a normal.
Where there were better looking people
teenager.
than there were in your high school. A better, higher quality.
Exactly.
To date.
Yeah. And older. I mean, I was definitely, living in sort of a different, an adult world.
Yeah.
I was in an adult world by choice. I mean, I was really happy to be in that world,
Yeah.
And it's the reason why I've sort of kept my own kids from, doing acting until they turned 18, which is still a real bone of contention with my elder daughter, who is an actress and a really wonderful actress.
Oh, wow.
But I really wanted her to just, have the high school experience and not be, a kid actor, because I think it's a lot, and you do sort of miss a lot. And I am a bit of an outlier in terms of, sort of that I'm still here, that I'm still, relatively normal and functioning and, and have friends and haven't been, I don't know, that I'm here.
Yeah. I would say it sounds like in terms of kind of trying to keep this rule specifically with your daughter who is an actor and wants to act, like if you're saying you have to wait, it's kind of hard to question you.
Yeah.
Like you've got the moral authority and the knowledge. Like I don't really see how she can fight back.
Well, it's her mom.
But on the other hand, I do see it from her point of view where she says, well, why are you so special? Like why?
Ouch.
Like to her, in her mind, she's basically, seeing it like, oh, you think that it's okay for you, but not for me. Like, why can't I? Why can't I do what you did? And, which, it is a valid point.
You know what? Now that you're saying it, I'm like, oh, your daughter's got to
Might be on her side.
I'm on the daughter's side. I'm back and forth. I'm back on the emotional roller coaster. I mean, were there any, I don't know. I feel like there's so many more questions to ask just about that reunion.
I know. Well, I think what we were wondering too is like, were you in touch with any of them, or are you still friends with any of your, that group from Pretty in Pink or
Breakfast
Club or 16 Candles?
I am really good friends with Ali Sheedy, who to me is like my sister from another mister. We sort of became friends, I would say, more as adults. because we're not the same age. You know, when I was doing the Breakfast Club, the only one who was my age was Anthony Michael Hall. And so we had to go to school together.
Yeah.
You know, we were friendly, but we were just like at different points in our lives. And then, as you know, as you get older, those years don't matter as much. And so, you know, we're in contact all the time. We're always texting each other. We're always kind of like, you know, sort of being a good support system for, you know, this crazy business that we're in, and, you know, and also parenting, you know, her child, her son is older than my kids. So she's been through some stuff. So, you know, she's very wise and very smart, you know, about writing. So I'll give her, you know, first drafts of articles, and she'll be so supportive and give me, you know, some notes, and, you know, it's a really nice friendship.
That's really beautiful.
I want to roll the tape on at some point to go back, because I do also, when I think my Breakfast Club breakdown was 80% Ducky and 20% Allie Sheedy.
It was. I think you actually more identified with Allie because you felt
But Allie before the end.
Allie before the end.
Allie before the headband.
Yeah, before the headband. Yeah.
Before the terrible makeup makeover that I was not responsible for.
No, I mean,
I was not. I was so mad that they didn't actually just let me do it.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
Like, they should have let me do it.
This leads to another question that I was like, I have to ask, because I feel, and I'm sure you've been asked about it before, but the Pretty in Pink dress that you what's the word, rehabilitate
that monstrosity that she created.
Yeah.
Now, I will say,
she's a fashionista.
And she is a fashionista.
I mean, she is.
But like, you go through the montage of her working on the dress, and then
Molly
the dress is
her head.
revealed. I will say, in the moment when I saw it at the time, I was like, what the fuck happened to this dress? Why? This is terrible. But now,
looking back,
when I see it now, I'm like, I actually think that she was a bit of a genius. I think
of her time.
I think it was sort of postmodern, if I can be that bitch.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I feel like it didn't maybe get its due. It was before its time.
Yeah. It was very much of a time.
Andy knew what she was doing.
Yeah, Andy knew.
I think that Marilyn Vance, who designed the clothes, I think, you know, I mean, if you look at it now, it looks like something that Rachel Comey would do.
Exactly.
It looks
right?
like a Rachel Comey dress.
It's very, like,
Sorry,
even
I'm
the
screaming.
color.
Jessi's climbed into the microphone.
At the time, it was so not because I thought, you know, we had talked about, we had a whole conversation, and when that dress showed up, and because it was such an important dress, they like made like 4 of them or something.
Sure.
And there was no way out of it. And I saw this dress, and I was just like, I went and I'm just like bursting into tears. Like, went into the bathroom and cried. And my studio teacher, Irene, said, come on, pull it together. And I'm like, what am I going to do? This is awful. I'm going to look terrible. And then we shot this movie ending, actually, where I end up with Ducky.
Oh, we have to talk about that too.
Surprise, it didn't work. And so when we went to reshoot it, I thought, oh, it's perfect. Now we can reshoot it with a different dress. And
you really hated that dress.
I really hated the dress. And I asked my friend Colleen Atwood, who I'd worked with on a couple of other things,
Heard of her.
to design another dress, and she did, and the dress was beautiful. But then Howie said, no, we can't do that, because otherwise we'll have to shoot
Everything else.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, let's just shoot everything else. No, they only wanted to shoot me, you know, running out and getting together and having that kiss with Andrew McCarthy, who had shaved his head and was wearing like the worst
yes,
wig.
He was wearing a wig.
What?
Yes.
I didn't know he was wearing a wig.
If you look back, you're like, yeah, that's a wig. Yeah.
He's definitely wearing a wig. And it's such a giveaway, because his hair is kind of like, you know, doing that wiggy thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot right now.
Is it true that when you guys had I guess it was your first sort of test screening of Pretty in Pink, and they showed that original ending
with Ducky,
you ending up with Ducky, that the audience booed?
Well, I wasn't actually there at the screening, but I do know that the choice to change the ending came after the screening. I don't know if they booed.
People vocalized.
The lore goes.
I should ask Howie if that's true. But I do know that overwhelmingly in the response was, they wanted me to end up with Andrew because that's who I had the romantic chemistry with. That that's the guy. I mean, do I think that Andy is still with Blaine? No, absolutely not.
I mean,
do I think she's friends with Ducky? Absolutely. Those two are definitely in each other's lives.
I mean, the fan fiction that could be written, and I'm sure has been, about Andy and Blaine.
Can I make a terrible, embarrassing kind of confession right now?
You have written fan fiction about Andy and Blaine?
No, but many years ago, I think like 20 years ago, I and a friend who we were a writing team, we pitched on 36 Candles, which was going to be maybe the sequel to 16 Candles.
Well, it's twice. I mean...
Well, but it was 36 because that was more the age that the actors were at the time.
Twice as many candles.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's twice as many candles.
It was 18.
Yeah,
It's
I
more than
remember.
twice. More than twice, but 32 candles would be the...
shit! Sorry.
I was trying not to.
You were really trying to help me,
Yep.
and then I fucked it up.
But
I'm bad at math.
I did we wrote a whole treatment for it and everything. This is I was a young person myself.
Oh, you absolutely go for 36 Candles
Absolutely.
as a young writer.
I was
You're
I'm in.
I'll get that assignment.
Didn't get it.
I think everything
I
has
don't
worked
think
out.
I don't think anybody
I
got
don't
it
think they
because
did.
it got
exist.
canned and then John died and eventually it was like I didn't feel comfortable doing anything without John.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was ready to kind of go back to those movies. There was some talk I heard that he had written some kind of a sequel of Breakfast Club. I don't know if it's true or not.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's just hard to imagine doing anything without him. He was so, such a part of those movies. I mean, huge part,
Yeah,
well, I think it's a good thing that it didn't happen because
everything landed.
Thinking of it now, I'm glad that I failed miserably at whatever I was trying to do there.
I think what was meant to be was meant to be.
I meant to be.
I mean, it feels like
there's
a whole song.
By the way, you are an incredible singer. Are
an incredible singer.
Let's not just glaze over that. So if you wanted to sing Que Sera Sera, I mean,
maybe a track comes out of this interview.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know. We don't even know. I was going to say that what we were just chatting about is a good segue to another question we wanted to ask, which was just, you have teenagers. You obviously have a perspective on teen movies that is quite unique. And those John Hughes films weren't just iconic. They were really evergreen. The fact that people still watch them over and over again, see them for the first time. And I guess we just were wanting to ask, again, as someone who has teenagers, do you look at movies made for teens today, the movies that your kids are watching, and have any sense of what is missing or needed to make a movie that's as lasting and profound as those John Hughes movies were? And I wrote down, ask what is the secret sauce, and apologize for saying secret sauce. But yeah, it just must be interesting to watch your kids watch movies.
I don't really think that anything has compared with those movies, really, just because they were one of a kind. I mean, they were. There was nothing like it, and there's just something about the first time that something like that is done. And I think, everybody has tried to sort of remake it in some way, but, and very often they ask me to be in it. I'm like the Buddha, you just rub my belly and I'm going to give whatever to that, and it never really quite works. I'm trying to think of movies that I watch. I don't really have a lot of interest in watching teen movies just because I think I have like a little bit of an allergy.
Sure.
You know,
Fair.
like I just sort of like I'm not really that interested, but I am interested to watch what my kids are watching. So sometimes I remember Adele was really into, she's gone through different periods, but she was really into that really sweet show that was based on the graphic novel, Heartstopper.
Oh, I
Yes.
love Heartstopper.
Yeah. So I watched that with her.
That's a great show.
You know, it's a really great show. And then, you know, we've been watching Parks and Rec, which is not teen, but she's really into that.
Teens love
I
Parks.
watched,
They do.
Big Mouth with my elder daughter, Matilda.
Yeah.
Which I actually thought, this is going to sound kind of weird, but I really felt like sometimes that gave me Breakfast Club vibes.
That's amazing.
Okay, that will
it was,
travel back to the creators. They'll be thrilled to hear this.
It's way filthier. Like, it went in a direction, because actually John could, funny enough, he could be a little bit prudish.
Interesting.
So it went in this, I can't ever imagine like a talking tampon in a John Hughes movie, but,
Cool.
But aside from that, I feel like the friendships and the issues and, the bullying and, all of that stuff I thought was really well represented, and how it actually feels to be a teenager and, when your hormones are taking over and like all that. That was the thing that I was like, yeah, okay. I get it. I get why people are watching this. I get why kids are watching it and their parents.
That's
That's
amazing.
so nice to hear. I know that everyone's mind will explode hearing that from you. It's
By the way, the last season of the incredible Big Mouth is now on
the last
Netflix.
season
And
of Big Mouth just I don't know when.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
It's on right now.
We're very proud. I was just going to say, when you're talking about like going back to Breakfast Club reunion and now everyone has kids, and there was a moment near the beginning of Big Mouth where I heard from an old dear friend who I don't really get to see or talk to as much as I want to, that was like such a deep friendship, like one of my first best friends. And we met in 5th grade, and she reached out to me and she was like, I am now watching Big Mouth with my like 13-year-old.
Amazing.
And I was like, oh my God, she's got a kid. And now actually my son, who's about to turn 10, like that is the age that we were when we met. So it's just like, I don't know. It's a lot of big feelings. A lot of big feelings.
A lot of big feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of like circular stuff, like everything coming full circle.
Yeah. It gets real
in a nice
circular.
way.
Yeah. In a nice way.
Yeah.
Speaking of sort of trying to come full circle.
Coming full circle to not have you talk for 20 hours. You really blew it when you told us you didn't have a heart out. We're almost done.
Your career is so enormous in terms of the sort of status that you have achieved in terms of being a cult icon, and just in terms of being somebody who really shaped culture, somebody who created not one, not two, not three, but so many like iconic roles that will like live forever. No pressure, but what do you want to do next?
Work with you, Liz. Work with you, Jessi.
The plane just went down again. The plane's going down.
The plane is going. Yes, we've died. This whole studio just burst into flames. We died, and now we're here.
Oh my God.
Well, that's done.
That's done.
I would just love to work with people that I really like. I feel like that's always, I think when I've done my best work is when I've been working with people that I like, that I think are funny, that I, admire, that I respect, people that I can just really talk to and where I can really be myself. And, I've had a long career and I have to say, like, that hasn't always happened. And, when you have a family, sometimes, you're doing stuff because you need to do braces and you need to put money away for college and you need
summer
to,
camp.
Yeah, summer camp.
The most
Hello.
expensive thing there is, summer camp.
Yes, my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter just signed herself up for a pre-Ivy League camp. So she's basically going to college by herself for 2 weeks. And she did the whole thing. And like when she told my husband, I want to go to this, university. And he's like, okay, yeah, like I'll help you, with the essay. And she's like, oh, no, it's done. I've already been accepted.
Love it.
Yes.
I just ran your credit card.
She's going places.
But these are the kinds of kids that I have. Well, actually, I just have one kid like that. The other two weren't like that at all. But she's going to be the one that takes care of us.
Yes.
But basically, to get back to what I want to do, I want to work and I want to collaborate with people that I really connect with, that I really respect, and that I just want to be around.
Yes.
That I have a good time with.
Yep.
And who get me and allow me to do what I'm good at. So I think, that's what I'm putting out there.
I mean,
Received.
Manifested and received.
Received, manifested.
But also, I do think like Liz and I say the same thing to each other all the time, which is like we've both been doing this
A long
for
time.
a while now. Not to date ourselves, but we're both 68 years old. And you get to that point where you're like, I've had great jobs and not so great jobs. And what makes the great job really is that you have fun every day and
It's
you're
the
working
people.
with people that you love and
That's
or at
all I
least
wanna
really,
do.
really like.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing this podcast just to really be able to hang out with each other and
The long con.
long con other people into being a part of this mishmash. But but I also, that is very much my ethos at this point. Like I only want to work with people I enjoy being around because I've just spent all that time away from my family, and if I'm going to be away from them, I want to be with people who
That's
I
another
feel,
family.
Yeah,
Who are like
I feel really
family,
close
yes.
to. Exactly. We close every episode with what we call our ravioli moment, and that's just sort of a great moment in friendship, a time when someone really showed up for you when you needed them most. So wondering if you have one.
Do I have
To
one?
share.
I have a few, and it's really hard to choose which one. One is kind of dark,
We can go dark. It's up to
We
you.
can hold space for that.
and the other one is kind of more fun. So I'll start with the dark one, but I don't want to end with the dark one.
Okay.
I have
We're
a
here for
friend.
it all.
I have a friend who I went to a party with, and I drank a little too much. I was quite a bit younger and didn't know, I didn't know my dose, and I really drank a lot. And she had quit drinking. She was in the program anyway. I somehow at this party ended up in a room with this sleazy producer guy. And was just about to do something that I think I would have regretted my entire life. And the door, there was like a little knock, and then the door opened, and my friend Victoria said, "And it's time to go home now."
Oh my God.
And I just like stood up, kind of stumbled over to her, and she took my hand and kind of wobbled out of the party, and I've never forgotten it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like just like an amazing friend moment. And we're still friends.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
She's a keeper.
That is
You don't lose friends like that.
No, and you don't forget those moments.
No.
And
No.
I was just going to say, it's funny because I had a similar moment in college where didn't know my dose. Like first 3 months of college, ended up in a room with a guy, maybe not the best, and was about to do something that maybe would not have felt great about. And actually another dude who I was friends with, but didn't know that well, like did the knock.
Wow.
And sort of came in and like very elegantly extracted. And
Nice.
I'm not friends with him anymore because we were never very close friends, but I've never forgotten
No,
him.
thank you, sir.
That's nice.
I've
never
That's
forgotten him.
like a stealth friend.
Like a stealth
Yes.
friend. It's just
Yeah,
like a
that's
guy
just-
being a good
which
guy.
which you can also be. You can do. I think that you can be a friend to somebody that you don't even know. You
Absolutely.
can just
Absolutely.
do something for a total stranger and just like be a friend when that person needs it.
Yes.
So
Sometimes angels come in mysterious forms.
Absolutely.
yeah. And then, okay, so that's a little dark. So I'm going to end with my friend Matt. Matt
Ducky.
and Jackie. I have only actually been broken up with once in my life.
Not hard
I've
to
usually
believe.
done the breaking up.
This tracks. Go on.
and they and they both suck, I gotta say. But
No,
being
they do.
broken up with was really kind of a new feeling for me, and it didn't feel great, and I was really sad and really depressed. And my friend Matt and Jackie, who they were kind of like a little bit of a team, went for a week. Every single day they would take me to do something different that we'd never done before. So we did bumper cars, and we did I think like a shooting range, which I wouldn't really want to do now, but then I'd never done it before. And it was in the spirit. The whole idea was to do things that you'd never done before. And that's what we did for a week. And by the time the week was over, I was completely over it. So I think that was a really good friend moment.
I love that.
Love that.
That's like they should like write a book. Like that's
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's like a great sort of like 7-step process to getting over a breakup, or 5-step process.
Yeah.
Let's
Each
go
day
do
you do
something
it different
every day.
I like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
You've got
amazing.
some good friends.
You really do.
I do. I have some good friends.
Well, you might have 2 more.
You might have 2 more, honey.
Always room for more.
If there's a light on top of that cab, we're hailing it and we're getting it.
Yes, we are. Taking it all the way to Brooklyn, baby.
Taking it all the way to Brooklyn, baby. This has been so absolutely delightful.
Really fun.
Truly dreamy.
Truly dreamy.
And let's continue it offline.
Oh my
God. You have all my coordinates.
I don't want to.
I mean, I don't, but I could probably get them from Jessi.
We're gonna get on a group. There'll be a group chat.
There'll
be a group
okay.
chat.
Amazing.
Molly, thanks so much for joining us. Do you have anything you'd like to mention to our listeners before we say goodbye in terms of something you're promoting, something you'd like them to read or that you wrote, see that you're doing?
Oh, well, I'm really bad at that. What am I like?
Join
once
the
I've
club.
done something, I'm like, it's done. Well, I guess the thing that I would promote the most is this book that I just translated.
Amazing.
About Maria Schneider, who was in the movie The Last Tango in Paris.
Yeah.
And it's written by her first cousin, who's a writer for Le Monde, which is kind of like the New York Times of Paris. And it's sort of about her life and what that experience did to her in her life.
Wow, what a perfect translator you are for that.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
My cousin
So
Maria
I don't know
Schneider.
if you're seeing it backwards. You're probably seeing
No,
it
we see it.
backwards.
My
seeing it
cousin.
forwards.
My
Oh, you
cousin
are?
Maria
Okay.
Schneider. That's amazing.
Yeah, so that just came out in paperback.
I'm gonna read.
Yeah, and then I also, this is kind of has become sort of an LGBTQ canon book to read.
I've heard
this
of
is
it.
a novel that I translated called Lie With Me, which is just a really beautiful love story between these 2 boys, one of whom one's closeted and the other one is not. It's kind of Call Me By Your Name-ish, but it's very beautiful.
You had me.
All right.
Lie With Me by Philippe Besson.
By Philippe Besson,
Besson.
yeah.
Yes.
Do you love my French accent?
And then I did very good, très bien, très bien. I did a movie that I think is not going to be out for a while called Thoughts and Prayers. But those other 2 things you can get right now.
Amazing.
Okay, well, we're getting them right now.
We're going to go get them right now.
We're going to go get them right now.
Thank you so much, Molly. And thank you for listening. Follow us on social media at Here to Make Friends Pod and let us know who you think we should make friends with next. Email us at htmfpod@gmail.com and go out.
Make a friend
Make a
today.
friend today.
For fuck's sake.
God damn it. Hey, one more thing before we go. We're taking next week off for the 4th of July, but we'll be back July 11th with an all-new episode of Here to Make Friends.
That was a Headgum podcast.